Hello YouTube, this is Shylock, and I will be doing a Let's Play for Rome Total War Barbarian Invasion. The faction I will be using is the Western Roman Empire, and I will be playing at very hard campaign difficulty and hard battle difficulty. Now, there's already a lot of commentators on YouTube, and they've been around for a while. What makes my Let's Play special? Well, I kind of planned the whole thing out before I even started to play it. I've played this game for a couple for longer than I should, and I kind of know the ins and outs of it. So the whole campaign should only take 10 turns if I do everything right, or less even. So like you see, I'm making all the moves already. I kind of know what I'm gonna do, and so forth. So one of my trademarks is that I like to be very aggressive early on. Uh, I really don't think it's efficient to pay your better troops to garrison your cities and whatnot. The only troops I use to garrison my cities on a long basis is peasants because they're cheap. They're really cheap. It's the only thing that peasants are good for is being cheap, and I send all my other units out to the front lines and kill people because that's what they're paid for, right? I don't pay my troops to sit on my asses. As you can see, I've already attacked the Kelstead in the north. I'm going to attack the Franks right now, and I'm going to attack the Alemanni as well. I'm going to make another attack on the some other barbarian settlements. I don't quite remember what. Um, People usually think this campaign is the hardest in this game. Well, the reason for that is basically in the beginning, your cities are not making too much money for you, and they're on the precipice of rebellion, like pretty much every single one of them. And you only start with 1,000 denarii, so there isn't really much. There isn't a lot that you can do about it. Uh, so what most people try to do is to lower the taxes, put more troops in the city, and try to keep the populace happy. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do a with what I would call a controlled rebellion plan. That is this. I'm going to basically raise the taxes on all the cities I don't plan to that I can't easily keep happy and or has a really high population, and make them rebel. And 2 turns later, I will attack that city, capture it, and exterminate the populace there. Uh, this is a game after all, and a single player, so you really don't need to make any compromises, and that's what I'm gonna do. Um, there's a couple like this is borderline exploitive. I'll admit, but in real life, rebels are not exactly very organized either, and they shouldn't be quite this strong as portrayed in the game. That's my opinion. Anyways, so the details of this plan are going well. Basically, there's one. Religion is a huge factor in this game. Say if you have a settlement that has a Christian shrine in it, that settlement's religion, official religion is Christianity, and if it has a very high pagan population, it'll be very unhappy. As you can probably imagine, say like right now in Europe, there's a lot of Muslims, and the native Europeans are not very happy with that. This is kind of analogous to that. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my empire have only one religion, basically. So I'm going to be destroying all my pagan buildings in every single one of my pagan cities, and by destroying them, I get a bit of denarii to work with. That's good, and I will be replacing those shrines with Christian ones. This helps you in that it increases the conversion rate for your cities dramatically. Uh, the details for which are that the conversion rate is determined by the shrine within the city itself and the shrines within the cities that are just adjacent to that city. So, for instance, if I have one city and I have a shrine there, that's 5%, I think. And if it has 4 cities adjacent to it and all of them have shrines in it, you get 25, and that's very good. 4 turns or so, in 4 turns or so, that city will be 100% Christian at the most, and I could move all my better combat worthy troops out of that city and go and fight them barbarians. Another reason why I'm going to oh yeah, as you can see right now, I am destroying my military buildings. This is so that the rebels, when they spawn, will only be spawning as peasants and not as, say, Limitanei or communitenses. They spawn based on what buildings are present in the city. You can also see me pulling my troops out of the city. Same reason. When the rebellion happens, if you have troops stationed within that city, they will sometimes turn against you and sometimes not. That's a chance I don't really need to take, because I can just move them out of the city in the first place. Yeah. A quick word about population. In this game, population is not that great for you, especially for Rome. Like, bigger cities usually let you build better units, but the Roman units in this game are just so utterly crappy that it's really not worth it to go beyond tier 1 units. Well, and since I'm going to be playing a 10-turn campaign, there's really no point. Like right here, yeah, those units look pretty nice. Well, those chariot ballistas are pretty nice, but I won't be having enough time to build them. Oh yeah, blacksmith, the smithies can give the rebel troops upgrades, and upgrades on peasants are probably the most efficient in the game. I don't really like that, so I'm gonna be destroying them and getting a bit more money to my treasury. So as you can see, by destroying my hundreds of years of savings, of Roman savings, I can actually do something now. But in a couple of turns, all that is going to go into my deficit. So yeah, back to population. Roman, well, besides from letting you build better buildings and upgrading your cities, population pays taxes for you. That's the only reason for their existence from the dictator's point of view. However, the mechanics of this game doesn't really reward you for having a lot of people. The reason for that is that the more people you have, the less denarii per person you get. So basically, to condense all that, is smaller settlements are more tax efficient. So, well, that's one reason. And then another reason is that for larger cities, you get squalor. Like, imagine the American South, where you have the Kool-Aid flowing and the fried chicken and crime being very rampant. Well, squalor causes problems, and eventually your cities might rebel. So that's no bueno. I'm not gonna bother with it. Yeah. Another trademark for me, I would say, is that I play my campaigns very frugally. Like, every battle, I need to minimize my casualties. That's, well, somewhat out of because of my style, but also because it's kind of a necessity. Like, the troops I'm gonna start with in this campaign are pretty much what I'm gonna have throughout. Like, I'm not gonna be making any more for at least 2 turns because my economy's in the crapper, and afterwards my troops will be moving west and south and north. That reinforcements are probably not going to catch up with them. And also you can hire mercenaries wherever you are, and because Roman units are so damn expensive and so damn worthless, mercenaries are pretty much a better deal for Roman anyways. You see, I moved my capital to Masella. That minimizes the unhappiness due to distance for all my cities, because Masella is in the very center of my empire right now, and it's one of the cities I plan to keep. Meaning it's not gonna. I'm not gonna force it to rebel. The cities that I'm gonna do that with are Arles and Masella in southern France. Some city in northern France, I think it was Colonia Agrippina, and both cities I have in England and that little island in the middle of the Mediterranean. Like, I've been saying it for a while now that Roman units are crap in this game. A quick point that can illustrate that is in the original game where you have something called urban cohorts, and if you have any experience of this game, you either really hate those guys or you kind of love those guys. Well, those guys were pretty overpowered, to say it very mildly, and the best Roman unit in this game cannot possibly compare with those guys. They cost pretty much the same. Well, and the comitatenses, which is the best Roman infantry unit in this game, they they have like what eight attack compared to like 12 of the urban cohort, and the crazy morale of the urban cohort is not seen in those guys. So yeah, and the barbarian units in this game are much upgraded from Rome Total War, even making the Romans' job even harder. However, there's one thing going for you, and that is your generals. You have a lot of them. They make very crappy governors because they all have traits damaging your city's happiness and revenues and whatnot. So it's not exactly efficient to use them as governors. And there's the opportunity cost of using them as the frontline cavalry, which is what I'm gonna do with pretty much all my generals. Right now, I'm gonna be invading some barbarian settlements. These battles are pretty easy, to say the least. And they're kind of drawn out so that I can minimize my casualties. Like for this one, if I really wanted to, I could just click attack orders from the beginning and just fast forward. But I need this army to stay together and move forward, not die right now. These settlements are not going to be kept per se because they are going to rebel against me unless I put a lot of troops in there, which I'm not going to. So basically I'm taking them to get a bit of money right now and convert it to Christianity, so it helps the conversion within my empire, and later I can come back to when I do come back to these settlements, they will be Christian and easy to keep. Like, well, it doesn't have to be Christianity, really. I could have gone with paganism. Well, now that I think about it, it's probably easier. Because the Christianity pays off in the long run. Because they have better buildings. And since I'm going to be playing attention... Oh, well, whatever. It's not that important anyways. Right here, you see I caught a unit of peasants, and instead of keeping on run, they have turned to engage my cav. Peasants against cav is not a battle that peasants can win, like, ever. Oh yeah, I was wondering why that unit held out so long as the general. Like, yeah, anyways, my battles are... These battles are kind of always like this. The AI keeps like one unit outside of the town, or a couple if they have a large army, and that unit just runs back into the city for like no reason. Like, if you're just gonna run back into the city, why do you keep the unit out there in the first place, you know? So yeah. There's a spear levy. I'm not exactly good. Well, a cavalry against spear levy, I'm gonna take quite a bit of casualties. So even though I'll win probably, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna try this. I would like to preserve as many of my units as possible, because this army, I plan to have it take this settlement and the settlement to the direct north of this one, crush two rebellions in my city, two of my rebellions in my cities, and then take on the Goths. So they need to stay very fresh. Like you see, the archers are pretty much stuck in the spearmen. I'm just having my cavalry take cover behind the building. Yeah, like running from inferior units, you don't need to do that very often. Let's see, I'm slowly moving my infantry up, and well, I don't really need to anymore because the archers are out of the town square and I could attack them. So all in all, they will die quickly. Like earlier, what I was saying about my generals, just basically compare the stats of all the cavalry units available to you. The best cavalry unit you can hire in your towns are statistically inferior to your generals, with the sole exception is that those units are larger than your generals, but they do not have 2 hit points like your generals do. Generals are really overpowered, especially in the early game, because like if they die, if some of their numbers die, as long as the general doesn't die, they replenish after every turn. No other troop can do that. And that ability alone makes it very useful for the kind of campaign I'm going to be playing. Quick word about that 10-turn limit I set. The reason why it's 10 is I need to be taking Constantinople to win. I have an army. Well, I have some ships sailing to Syracuse, and they'll pick up the army I have in Syracuse and sail directly for Constantinople. It'll take about 9 turns together. A very conservative estimate on my part. We'll get that back to that in a sec. Here I exterminated the populace, getting me a bit of nice denarii, and I've began constructing a Christian shrine. Well, it's all in the plan. And now on my turn. A very annoying thing in this game is that some of these barbarian factions, when you kill them off, they will horde, which you've probably seen before, is that they form a couple of full stacks of kind of crappy troops, but with some very good ones. First, for instance, the swordsman and the horse archer. Those troops doesn't cost them any maintenance, and they just roam around the map, keep finding things to kill, which is usually Romans. I really don't like that, but it's whatever. There's a way for me to get around that though, which is if I can for the Franks, they start with just a faction leader and a faction heir. Now, if I could kill them both off without taking their city, they will just disappear as a faction, and their city will go rebel. I'm going to be and I won't have to deal with 4 uber stacks appearing right off of my border. So I'm going to be doing that, trying to do that at least. You can see here the AI is not very bright. They're just going to let their mercenary cavalry to be charged by my generals. Keep an eye on my generals' numbers. They don't really die very easily. And with a bit of micro, the AI, basically I just want to get some quick kills off and get the AI general to chase me. That way, you see he's taking the bait, and now I'm going to run away to my main lines. The AI will follow you, which human players won't. Yeah, it's kind of silly, but for what I'm going to be trying to do, this is very effective. You see my lines, I have my infantry in one line with my peasants in the very front. Barbarian units in this game pretty much almost always have pila, so that's what the peasants are there for. They're very worthless. I don't really care if they get hit by a lot of pila. Yeah, it's kind of hard being a peasant these days, right? Especially in this game. The only thing the general really expects of you is to die. Okay, so I've lured the general in, and now I'm going to swarm him with my units from every single side, and he should die in like no time. The one thing these Roman infantry in this game all have very low attack, but very very high defense. So they're not usually very good at killing. However, they are very very good at not getting killed. So having that, okay, epic success. That goes 1, and the army mass routes. Can be one thing that barbarians don't really differ is their crappy morale between the 2 games. If the general dies, they pretty much rout instantly, as you can see here. That's not very different in Barbarian Invasion as it is in Rome Total War. Look at the numbers on my peasants. Yeah, they're doing their job of dying very, very well. And my limits and I are taking minimal casualties as a result. Very useful if you ask me. I'm chasing down some of the routing units, but I'm probably not going to get all of them, which is fine. The main goal here is to get the generals and not the routers. As you can see, I am being very liberal with my generals, attacking just about anywhere and going where they please, like Dr. Muno in WoW, if you know my reference, bravo to you. So here comes the second general, and once again I will run back to my infantry line and let him follow me. I'll get my other general to help, and this should work out very, very well. Later, I predicted my generals would get something around like 300 kills each. That's very typical actually. And the Roman, like I mentioned earlier, the Roman infantry have horrible attacks, so they're not going to be killing a lot. It's usually my Roman infantry doing the tanking and my generals doing the killing. Later on in the game, when you have like 20 unit stacks, that's probably going to be different. But right now, this works, and I'm gonna go with it. Instead of running away, the AI goes back in for a charge, and that would mean he is dead. Like sometimes, even completely surrounded, these general units get away. I mean, well, the general himself gets away. The bodyguards I don't really care about. It's the general. If the general dies, this unit dissolves automatically. If he lives, well, it reforms. So I really don't want to deal with that and killing him twice and whatnot. Oh, good. He's wavering, so this will end very quickly. Those infantry over there will pretty much master out immediately, and yeah, and victory for me. So on turn one, I have knocked out one enemy faction, and captured 2 cities. That will, well, I won that battle, but I'm gonna try to kill as many as I can in the meantime, reaping the spoils of war in blood and not a lot of treasure. Yeah, like I was saying, this campaign will be just about 10 turns. You need to take 34 settlements and Constantinople to win. The Romans start with 25. Like keeping them is a very tall task to begin with, but nah. With my plan, it shouldn't be very difficult. So that was a heroic victory for me. My generals, like I predicted, each have about 300 kills. Well, yeah, each has about 300 kills. This is very typical of my battles, and this is all for this time. If you guys have any suggestions for me, leave a comment, please. I will do what I can next time.